All right. Well, welcome back to the Self-Illumination podcast. So grateful that you're here for episode 2. We're going to have episode 3 on Friday. But today I am so stoked to introduce my guest, Ashley Turevon. She's a phenomenal artist, writer, traveling yogi, and all around someone who's a phenomenal dream weaver on this planet. And I'm just super stoked to talk with her about how she's woven yoga and traveling and all this deliciousness that she loves to do inside of her day-to-day life. So without further ado, Ashley, thank you so much for being here. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today.
Yeah, me as well. I'm just completely honored to be asked and considered to talk with you today and share a little bit about my story and how I got here and how honestly I'm still figuring it out all the time.
Oh man, I think, all of us are living inside of our own story. And then on top of that, we have all this narrative that's been programmed into our head, right? So it's like, wait,
Yeah.
that narrative and that story aren't lining up. How do I create what I really want? I think we're all doing that. And as someone who's watched you take this step into becoming this amazing creator and traveling yogi and living your dream life, it's super exciting for me to have this opportunity to share it with people, because I think a lot of us, we go through life and we have these dreams, but we don't always understand how to make them tangible. So I think for the listeners, the first thing I want to do is kind of just, how did you get into yoga? Like, what inspired you to take that path?
So I actually started practicing yoga as a senior in high school. The local gym around the corner in Texas sort of had a wellness center, and so we would have late arrival on Friday morning. So my friend and I would go, and I just remember thinking the yoga teacher was so cool. Like there was something about her that made me want to be her, and I wasn't quite sure what it was, just this essence of being so in tune with herself. And for someone that struggled with a lot of insecurities and losing myself and other people and not the best habits, that was something I was really trying to look for outside of myself. But then you realize it's inside of yourself as you continue the yoga practice. And
But you were inspired by her, just like literally her energy, her way of being was inspiring to you at such a young age.
yes,
That's so
absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah, and then even my dad started joining me in yoga because it was good for his back and it was a way for us to connect early in the morning. And then in college kind of fell off. I definitely went full rebellious mode, which I've talked about in some of my blog posts of just not being able to find the middle ground of the gray and just back and forth on this spectrum. And at the end of my freshman year of college and deciding I needed a break because I just wasn't ready to invest in education that deep and was feeling a bit lost, I immediately, when I got back from my freshman year, bought like Light on Yoga and Ayurveda and actually started studying and self-studying with books. And then that was kind of the start of a deeper relationship where I started having more of a daily practice and getting more serious into the philosophy and kind of having this back and forth with, sometimes it was deeper in the asana, sometimes just deeper in reading and trying to grasp that there was more in this life than I was allowing myself to have at that point.
So did you really feel like yoga for you? Because it sounds to me like when I'm listening to you, it's almost like yoga allowed you, by looking at this person outside of you and then having that kind of pendulum, because so many of us have a hard time with the gray, right? Or we get lost in the gray and it's
Mm-hmm.
hard for us to find our clarity. But
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like you went through these life experiences that even though you had this internal awareness, it kept pulling you outside of yourself. And then all of a sudden something flipped for you and you were like, I got to get into this. I got to get into this to yourself, right? Not just the yoga. And the yoga was kind of the pathway for that.
Exactly. It's like I spent so often feeling lost and not happy with myself and getting lost in this story that I couldn't have this happy life in a way. But when I would do yoga, there was glimpses of knowing and feeling safe. Like every time I went on my mat, everything made sense. And so that's why I kept returning to the practice.
Oh, I love that. Ashley and I, for those of you listening that don't know Ashley or don't know me, Ashley and I have known each other for many years. And one of the things that I have always said about my practice on the mat is that it feels like prayer with my body. And it's interesting because Ashley has a very similar feeling, and she has a way of expressing it creatively with her words and her love of the philosophy that just, I get full body chills right now just talking about it because I love taking her classes. It's like, taking one of Ashley's classes for me has always felt like I was walking through a art show. That's really what it feels like. It's such a great feeling because the postures are there, the breath is there, the philosophy is there, and then there's always just this beautiful, creative, just way of being that only you have. And it's just such a fun, uplifting experience. But at the same time, she can kick your asana. So it's like a really great, it's a really, really great, really great combination. So, in knowing you, Ashley, I've watched you have this dream of being like a traveling yogini, right? And sharing your love and passion for all things creative, writing, music, art, yoga, mindfulness, meditation. And so I want to know, what do you love so much about traveling? Like, what does it do for you? What does it bring to your table?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think since like day one that you met me, I was like, I'm going to travel the world,
Totally.
And that's the first thing I'll tell everyone if they'll let me share. I'm just like, I'm getting out there. I think my favorite thing with traveling is just the ability to get outside of myself and uncomfortable all the time. It's created a sort of confidence in my essence that I feel like so many people get trapped in this story of like, well, this is comfortable and I need to stay. I'm in too deep and I can't change it. My life is all about changing it all the time, and it makes the world feel even smaller, or just like everyone's my friend in a way, because I can go to a new place and I'm like, give me 2 months, people will know me and I'm going to build something here and I'm going to help people and make an impact. And like everywhere I go, like even I'm getting chills saying that because I'm so passionate about it that like everywhere I go, I'm like, this is my home. I'm going to interact with people. I'm going to connect. Like, I'm going to leave something behind here. And so it's almost fun that, like, it's true. Like, I really enjoy, like, the developing process of life, that I find inspiration, that I don't have to be scared to leave and end something because it's never really ending. It's just helping me build to the next thing. And then I go somewhere else and I build to the next thing. And it's always in this flow state of evolving and really like trusting the universe that I'm here. I don't need to look for the next step. I'll intuitively know when it's time for me to grow because my growth has stopped here. And I learned so much from the people around me too. Like I get to see a different essence of my personality come out every new place that I go to. Utila was like free dive yoga, Ash. Like here it's like I'm a bit more in charge and like telling people what to do like on the adventure side and how to let go. And I've also seen me be more social, and now I've got to this quiet place where my writing has been able to come out because there's less distraction. I've been a bit more introverted, where I just dedicate myself to work and my self time, which is totally new for me, but that's the phase that I'm in right now. That's really helping me be where I need to be right now. So
I think that, one of my favorite ways when people ask me where home is, and I always say, well, home is wherever I am,
for sure.
because I am a child of the world,
Mm-hmm.
and the world is my home. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So there isn't like just this one place. And I loved, very early on, you were like, I'm going to get out there. I'm going to travel the world. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And I have watched you bring this dream into reality. Ashley and I were talking before we started the podcast today, and I was telling her just how inspiring it has been to watch her travel the world, share her story, share her experiences. On Instagram is dominantly where I follow her, and I'll have her tell you guys how you can be in touch with her. But I love your writings. They speak to my soul. So I'm always paying attention to the things that you post. I'm always paying attention to the experiences that you have, because I feel like we have that in common. Like it's a kismet aspect between us. We have many layers and levels of that, but there is a dimensionality to traveling for those of us who love to travel and share or just travel, right? For me, travel has always been this way of when I have things go on in my life, I like to get out of my day-to-day minutia and travel the world, because then what it does is it allows me to go, oh yeah, my shit's not that big of a deal. Like we all got problems. We all got desires. We all have things we want to do. And all of us are in this body trying to live this life. Right.
Exactly. It's
And
like
if
sometimes
we,
you get so wrapped up in this, especially like living in small town, you get wrapped up in the circle and who's saying what and what's going on. And then it blows my mind every time I just buy a plane ticket and then I'm in this totally different reality. I'm like, none of those stories matter. I'm in a completely different place. I can sit at this coffee shop. No one knows me. I can just observe and listen to people, and I think that's been a big thing as well. I just love hearing people's stories, or I look around and I'm like, what all of these like what are all the moments that brought us here together to all just be riding this bus together? Where are people going?
yeah,
So
like really in the moment, right? And I think that that's something that's very cool about traveling, is especially if you're traveling as part of your lifestyle,
Mhm.
is it allows you to be present with
Mhm.
what's going. One of my favorite ways to talk to people about traveling is like, watch yourself when you're in the airport and things don't go according to plan, right?
Mhm.
Because if you lose your zen there, it's a massive place for you to understand growth.
Mhm.
And so you can imagine, as someone, and those of you listening can imagine, like many of the challenges, right, that Ashley's had to face, in the sense of like, well, I don't know where I'm going to go in 2 months, but it always works out because I've watched you land at one amazing place after another, and your smile gets bigger, your skin gets brighter, and you just keep evolving. And what I would love for you to tell the listeners right now is, what is it that just makes this combination, right? Like, how did you make this combination happen for yourself of all the things that you love to do on top of traveling? Like, what were your action steps to like bring that together? If you don't mind sharing that with the listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would definitely say yoga was a big catalyst in starting all of that, because it allowed me to get deeper within myself to figure out what it is that I really want and want to work towards. It's also like I said earlier, my place of check in. If I feel stressed out and a bit, and then I'm like, wait, when's the last time I did yoga? And then I do it. I'm like, okay, now we're back on track, or just movement in general, you know? And so yoga just seemed like this great idea to make the travel happen, because all I really needed was myself. I didn't really need any other equipment besides a yoga mat. I could just bring these skills, and just being able to bring yourself is a very light, very light packing. I'm like, okay, I've
Yep.
got me. Okay, that's all we need. So it made it really accessible as well, because I noticed that yoga is not going anywhere. It's only getting more and more popular. It's something that can easily be shared with people, and it would connect me with the people I wanted to be around while traveling as well. It gave a common denominator for people that shared similar interests, similar lifestyles, and similar life goals.
And so how did you find those places where you wanted to go? Did you just like get on Google and start searching for like yoga teachers needed, or did you start reaching out to people that you already knew? Like, how did you tap into that network, so to speak?
It's all been like a bit kismet, and when it started happening, it happened fast. But I intuitively was like, everything's about to change. I could feel the energy coming, because I feel like, as well, being super present, and because I used to struggle with anxiety a lot too. Like, I notice sometimes when I go back to this city, I'm like, oh, because you get like caught up in this like rat race. You can feel all this energy around you, and finding these quiet places allows a bit more of, I can be whoever I want here. There's no pressure that I have to fit into these society standards, which have really helped. So I've been used to traveling in the States, and I'm really kind of glad COVID happened because I was just in my happy festival circuit, like, yay, 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 we're traveling. But it wasn't quite the expanded travel that I had in mind. Like, I kept trying to figure out how to get out, but I was still like, okay, I'm making more money to spend more money, but I'm still traveling. It's not international. It's okay. Next year, next year.
So
COVID really.
you actually, sorry to interrupt, but I'm excited that you brought up COVID, right? Because you actually feel like it was the catalyst. And I think COVID has been an amazing catalyst for so many people in
Yeah.
so many ways. Like, I know it certainly changed my life. And for those of you listening, not all in the positive, but at the end of the day, all of it's going to shake out in the positive. I know that. Right. We've all experienced some kind of shakeup, but I love that you brought this up and you felt like it became this catalyst to say, hey, stop doing this domestic stuff and staying in the wheel, and let's kind of get outside of that. And so how did you find yourself getting outside of that? Like what was that step that you took to make that first international trip?
Yeah, so I'm really a big fan of journaling. It kind of allows me to be a teacher for myself where I'll flip back and start reading things, and I'm like, oh, we've been complaining about the same thing for 4 months. Or I might write down a dream that I'm like, whoa, we've forgotten about that for the last couple of months. Like, what's going on? So, I always sometimes get lost outside of myself. So I'm like dating someone, and then I'm realizing it's not going to align. So I'm like reading my journal to help comfort me. And then I was writing, like, I'm going to go somewhere warm for the winter. I'm going to go somewhere warm for the winter. So I'm like, wait, I need to get back on track. I have these bigger dreams, like, if not now, not never. I keep saying next year, next year. And I was getting tired of getting caught in that cycle. And so you've suggested Yoga Trade, which I still keep track of. I haven't used their services yet, but that's a great option for looking for yoga travel jobs. So I actually looked on Workaway. So it's an opportunity where basically you trade volunteer hours anywhere from, like, usually in the realm of hostels or permaculture farms, sort of that sustainable living aspect. And I was waiting on my passport to get renewed. And I'm actually so grateful for my roommate. He was tired of me saying next year, next year. So his Christmas gift for me was like giving me money saying, get your dang passport renewed. This is for you. You deserve it. I'm just so grateful for the amount of people that like have supported this, saying like, you're going to do the thing and great things are going to happen. I'm like, okay, no pressure.
It takes a village. It takes a village, right? Like that's
it takes a village. It really does. I need everyone around me reminding me like, hey, get back on track. Let's go. Because I'm like, la, 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 we could go. Okay, hold on.
Wait a minute, reorient.
Exactly. And so I was looking at the U.S. Virgin Islands because I'm like, okay, that's warm. And I felt like right when I accepted that it might not happen, because I wasn't really hearing back from people, or they said maybe March, or I was like, okay, you know what? Like, whatever happened is meant to happen. The second that was my truth, I get a phone call like, hey, can you come in 4 days? I'm like, all right, let's go. So I just changed my entire life in 4 days, went to the Virgin Islands for a couple months. And I think a big thing of traveling too that I love is you really learn how to be patient, because something's going to go wrong every time and you just have to let it go. It's like, haha, what's going to be the obstacle this week? Am I going to get stuck somewhere? Am I going to get not able to travel because the ferries stopped because of weather? Am I going to like have cash stolen? Like, you just never know. And so it just leaves you like, hasta la vida, it's life. And so I had basically been in the Virgin Islands. I had packed up my entire place. And this was actually like a really hard month for me. And I'm so glad I had the trust to be able to travel, because my finances changed. I was basically completely broke. I had subletted my house already. I'm like crashing on people's couches in this like month interim, trying to figure out where to go next. And I'm like, I should have life more figured out by now. Like, why am I 28, still broke? I'm sleeping on couches. What am I doing? But
I think there's a lot of people listening to this who are in those same shoes, maybe at different times. I definitely had that in my 30s. At one point, I was like, what? I think I should be able to adult better than this by now.
Seriously, I'm like, why can't I have it more together? Like, what is this? And
And now, was
so
this when you ended up in Utila?
this
Was
was
that
right. This was right before Utila.
yeah.
So I got stuck in Atlanta longer than I had intended. I thought it would just be a couple weeks, and it turned into a month and a half. And I'm like biking around, like looking every day, like. Can I afford this? No, but the iced coffee makes me happy. Okay, I guess I'll just have like $1 something later. Like it was really kind of a stressful time, but I would just look in the mirror and be like, you could do, having to like literally pep talk myself in between the crying and the what's going on and things like that. And
And
I'm
now
so,
tell us where you are right now, because if I remember correctly, you're in Nicaragua, and I want to know about the location. And then the other thing I want is for you to tell people how to get in touch with you and read your writings and take your classes and all that sort of stuff.
yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, the whole journey has been a bit kismet where a friend invited me to Utila and like you said, takes a village, showed me an opportunity there. And then while I was in Utila, a friend sent me the link for the job posting in Nicaragua. So it was never me looking. It was people looking out for me. I joke in
That's
the
so
water.
awesome.
I joke in the water sometimes, like the board will land next to my head. And then people are like, Ashley, you okay? I was like, something's looking out for me, but it's not me. So that's like a joke sometimes. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, but something is trying to make sure I'm okay. And so, yeah, my friend sent me the job posting and it combined all these things that I love because I always have like a fluctuation with my yoga where sometimes I teach more, sometimes I teach less, sometimes I just want to have it myself. And so this was an opportunity to get more into the business aspect and kind of help develop and other people shine. There's that skill again I love, like building and helping other people build. I'm really passionate about that. And so currently I'm in Gigante, Nicaragua. It's a very small surfing town, predominantly a fishing village. There's like less than 900 people here. Beautiful. And so basically, the current role that I'm in is this company called Room to Roam. And we offer experiences and retreats. And basically, our business aspect is to help streamline and make travel easier. And especially for the retreat leaders, too. Like they tell us their ideas, and we're like, we got it all booked. We have it all scheduled. We've color coded it. We've put your ideas into this tangible offering. And
Awesome. That sounds
yeah,
awesome. Let's
yeah,
make sure. So, for everyone listening, if you're a yoga teacher and you're thinking about doing retreats or any type of teacher you want to do retreats, make sure you look underneath this audio and video, and I'll put the link for the retreat center there so that maybe you can reach out and consider them.
yeah, that'd be great. So we predominantly focus on surf and yoga. We're kind of like fun wellness. I think you need to have a little bit of the fun side if you're in Nicaragua. The people here are a bit like cheeky and funny, and Latin culture is always like everyone's gonna have fun. Everyone's kind of family. Everyone here in town knows each other, and yeah, it's super awesome being here. And then a way to be able to find me is I'm usually on Instagram and under Trailblazing Yogini. So it has an underscore in there between Trailblazing and Yogini. And then hopefully in the future, I'm hoping to get a website together because I do have my blog posts that I've done on Room to Roam, but would also like to have a bit more. But it's all coming together. I'm just letting it evolve how it will. And right now, I'm kind of just taking time to build a bit more on the skills and keep settling into this routine and this being home base, which wasn't the plan at all. I thought I was going to jump country to country, and I'm like, all right, it's been a year and a half. I made it to stop 3, and have
But
just
when right? Like when you
yeah,
need to be somewhere for a little bit longer, then
exactly. It was interesting. Day 2, I got here and was like, there's something for me here. I just knew instantly, and I still get, like I said, a bit of travel. So every couple months, I try to pick a new country, go for a couple weeks, and then just come back here.
That's so awesome. Well, Ashley, it's such a pleasure to chat with you. I think you are such an inspiring individual, bringing your passions all together in something that is truly a career that's outside the box. And I think a lot more of us, if we can endeavor to live outside of the box, we're going to find so much more flow and grace in our life. And what I love is that you are riding the wave of your own creation and it's being manifested internally. And that is so powerful and so potent. And thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today and to share with the listeners. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you in Nicaragua because I think I'm going to be planning a retreat there.
Yes, keep saying, let's go. Come on.
I love it. Well, as always, thank you guys for listening to the Self Illumination podcast. And I'll see you back here for the next episode.